could it be but me, your man, Louie T? And this is 7 takeaways from Super Bowl 52. Number 7, commercials were meh. 3 of them kind of stood out, but for the most part, these commercials really didn't do it for me. It seemed like everybody was somewhat PC, kind of socially conscious. These were commercials that you could probably put on at, say, 9:30 while Will and Grace is on a Wednesday night. Who gives a damn? These aren't Super Bowl caliber commercials, but 3 did stand out. Number 3 for me was the Rocket Mortgage commercial featuring Michael Keegan-Key. I thought that was a good commercial, thought it was funny and tastefully and tactfully done. Coming in at a very close second was the Doritos Mountain Dew commercial that featured Busta Rhymes and Missy Elliott and people doing voiceovers of their songs, most notably Morgan Freeman. Thought that was a good commercial, and Doritos usually brings the heat every year, and they did it again. And only being outdone by one commercial, that being the NFL commercial, which is crazy. The actual product that we were watching had the best commercial, which is insane. But it was the Odell Beckham Jr., Eli Manning, Dirty Dancing kind of parody spoof. And so that was a great commercial, and I thought that was the best of the day. But again, slim pickings, but nonetheless, commercials haven't been that good over the last 5 to 7 years. Let's face it, they've gotten worse and worse as the years have passed. You go to number 6. Rating for the Super Bowl this year, Super Bowl 52, we're down. And this kind of goes with the theme of the season. The numbers for the NFL rating-wise, they were down this year as well. You could attribute it to a number of different things. People aren't watching on cable television anymore, and they're streaming these games, and maybe it's Patriot fatigue. You know, you've seen the Patriots in the Super Bowl. It seems like every year they've been in there quite a bit of late. And then, of course, you got the whole boycotting angle that exists, and I don't know how real it is, but in any event, the Super Bowl rating for Super Bowl 52 were the lowest since 2009, Cardinals and Steelers. Look, that being said, it still averaged over 103.4 million viewers. It's not like we were talking about, cupcake in terms of people watching, but still, the number of viewers that we're accustomed to seeing the Super Bowl garner, not quite hitting that mark with this Super Bowl, even though we had 2 teams that I thought would draw a lot of interest from the viewing public. You go to number 5. It's too damn cold for Minnesota or Minneapolis to be hosting a Super Bowl. Look, I understand how the NFL wants to kind of legislate this thing and give everybody a chance. If you build a dome, we will come. They've got to stop this shit. This is ridiculous. It was 2 degrees outside when this game was kicked off. And when you add in the wind chill factor, it was in the negatives. Look, the Super Bowl is a spectacle. And the entire 2 weeks leading up to it is supposed to be one big party. And it's hard to do anything but stay indoors, bundled up under 10 blankets when it's that damn cold outside. You can't enjoy the scenery. You can't enjoy the vibe. You can't enjoy what the Super Bowl is all about. Yes, the game itself is the main attraction, and that was inside, but you're supposed to take in the sights, the sounds, and everything that goes with the Super Bowl with the 2 weeks leading up, and you couldn't because it was too damn cold. It was 2 degrees at kickoff, and that wasn't just the day of the Super Bowl. It was that damn cold the entire week. NFL, do me a favor. Stick to the script, okay? Miami, L.A., anywhere in Texas is fine. And when's the last time we had a Super Bowl in Atlanta? Come on, please. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel here. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't do this again. Number 4. Patriots D was awful in this game, but Tom Brady is still legendary, okay? Despite horrible special teams that cost them 4 points in this game, no help from the defense whatsoever, losing his number 1 wide receiver relatively early in this ball game to a vicious shot from Malcolm Jenkins, and little contribution from the run game, which I thought they may have and maybe should have used a little bit more, but nonetheless, The 40-year-old MVP of the league balled out of his brain, throwing for over 500 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, which was a Super Bowl record for the most yards thrown for in a game by a losing quarterback. And I venture to say that's probably a record for the most yards thrown in a Super Bowl, period, but I'd have to do my homework on that. In any event, he was the sole reason the Patriots even had a shot in this game. So despite the age, despite the Patriot fatigue, Tom Brady, and despite the loss, Tom Brady is still Tom TBE, aka Tom the best ever, aka the GOAT. And just in case this loss kinds of maybe made you forget that, I'm here to remind you, don't forget that. Tom Brady, still legendary in this game, even in a loss, still proves that. At the ripe old age of 40. Number 3, the Malcolm Butler saga was head-scratching, but Nicholas Foles' storyline is undeniable. 2 major takeaways from this Super Bowl is the head-scratching decision by head coach Bill Belichick to not only bench Malcolm Butler, but to not even play him except for 1 snap on special teams. So we may never actually know the truth about that situation. We've heard rumors he was smoking weed, he was late, had a curfew issue. We heard that he belligered and really went after the coaches verbally. We've heard a number of things. He was very sluggish and disoriented at practice, didn't have a good week of practice. The only thing that we can nail down with any certainty is that he was under the weather at one point this week. He even showed up late to the first week of the Super Bowl, or the Super Bowl week, 1 day late to Minneapolis because of his sickness. And so we can narrow it down to he was sick for sure. But everything else is all hearsay, despite the fact he was one of your best players defensively this season. No, it wasn't one of his best seasons, but to bench him during the biggest game of the year, find that one a little hard to believe. That one was a mistake, if you ask me. But nonetheless, the real story here is Nicholas Foles and what he was able to do this postseason. And 6 touchdowns, 1 INT, 72.6% completion percentage, highest among any NFL quarterback in postseason history with at least 100 attempts passing. I mean, this guy was dynamite all throughout the playoffs, except for the first half versus the Falcons. After that halftime break, he was marvelous for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady, and some would argue out-dueled him in this Super Bowl. Without his play, this team doesn't make it to the Super Bowl and doesn't win it. Nicholas Foles' story and journey to this point was a bumpy and rocky one, but he got here, got this team their first ever Super Bowl championship, and it can't go unstated. Nicholas Foles was really the hero of this Super Bowl run by the Philadelphia Eagles. If Wentz was Batman in this situation, then Foles has to be like some sort of alternate Batman, not Robin in this case. What the hell did I just do there? I don't know. Hey, Pink, spit your gum out. Number 2, Doug Peterson is ridiculously good. I talked about Doug Peterson and the wizardry that is Doug Peterson, and how good of an offensive play caller and how great he is with creativity and coming from that Andy Reid tree, and how good he was. This was something that I expected, but to this level, I'd be lying to you if I thought that he would achieve this much greatness this soon with this group, i.e. mainly Nicholas Foles at the quarterback position. We're going to talk about Foles and what he did in his Super Bowl, and rightly so, and really for this entire playoff run. But what really needs to be focused on is the fact that Doug Peterson is an offensive genius, and he's not going anywhere. Carson Wentz isn't going anywhere. And for that matter, because of how good those two potentially could be for the next decade plus, the Eagles may not be going anywhere. Which leads us right in to number one. But before we get there, I must say this. The balls it took to go for it right before the half on that fourth down and pull one of the greatest trick plays we've ever seen in Super Bowl history out of the hat on the touchdown pass to Nicholas Foles. And then to not only roll the dice then, but then pull it back, roll it again in the most crucial and critical juncture of the game, down 33-32, with a situation where if you turn this over, it could potentially spell the end of the game for you on downs in your own territory at your own 40-yard line. And to convert there, ultimately go down, score the game-winning touchdown. It says everything that needs to be said about Doug Peterson in a nutshell. The guy is a ballsy risk taker with the actual skills and confidence in his players to back it up, which makes this Eagles team moving forward that much more dangerous. Hey, Kev, I know you done had a couple too many, but bad back. I'd hate for this to have to turn physical now. As we get to number one on the 7 takeaways from Super Bowl 52, did we just witness the beginning of an era and the end of another? Now, I know we're prisoners of the moment, and a lot of times we can jump to conclusions, and everything that happens in the moment is the best and the greatest. But this kind of felt like the end of an era and maybe the start of something new in the NFL. Now, again, the NFL is an ever-changing sport. It's a week-to-week league. 1 minute you're up, the next you're down. These Eagles could be the last place team in the NFC East next year. We've seen teams go from first to worst and worst to first. We see it every year, i.e. the Philadelphia Eagles, who finished last in the NFC East last season, now Super Bowl champions. That being said, it felt like the changing of a guard, so to speak. Now, the passing of the torch would have been a little bit more symbolic had the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles in this game been Carson Wentz, and he was able to defeat Brady. Remember, this was a guy that was heading on a crash course for the MVP before his injury derailed his season. But we feel like Doug Peterson has the chops to become a really good coach in this league, maybe even great if he continues down this path. We think Wentz has the ability to get the Eagles back to this point in the future, maybe even near future at some point. But are the Patriots done? Is this era of dominance over the NFL over with this loss? I couldn't help but think to myself, is this it? As I watched Brady watch his hopes of winning the Super Bowl dashed with the football hitting the turf, I could only think, did we just see the last of the Patriots in the Super Bowl? Maybe. I drew the comparison and the parallel to the 98 Bulls when they won the last of their second three-peat and said, yeah, you knew that one was done. Jordan was slated to retire. Pippen was on his way out. So was Phil Jackson. Not quite the same in New England, but the band will not be back together next year as Matt Patricia has already accepted the job in Detroit, and potentially Josh McDaniels could be off to Indy to be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. We'll see what happens. Stay tuned for that. But nonetheless, Brady will be 41 start of the next season. Now, granted, he just won the MVP at 40, but we've seen precipitous falls from grace very rapidly in this league, especially when you're talking age and father time. And although Brady versus time, 1 Brady, 0 father time, I never, ever count out father time. Belichick is still Belichick. Brady is still Brady. But did we just see the end of an era? I don't know. Guess we'll have to watch and find out. But nonetheless, those are my 7 takeaways from Super Bowl 52. I'm your man, Louie T. Signing off. I'll See you next time.